board. Yep. Okay. I'm going to call the Human Affairs Committee to order on July 30th. It's July 30th already? Where did July go? At 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman June Karen.
Here.
Alderwoman Mary Ann McGleasy. Absent. Alderman Linda Harriet Gathright, present. Our chair, Lori Wiltshire, present. Alderman Patricia Clee, absent.
Yeah, Alderman Clee did say she had a conflict this evening and wouldn't be able to join us. Okay. Public comment? No. Communications.
I forgot, also in attendance.
Oh, sorry. Also in attendance, we have Bill Adamson from the National Police Department, Brian Rhodes, not deputy anymore, Fire Chief, Kerry Skena from Urban Programs, and we'll introduce Michael Ranka when he comes up. Okay, public comment. Anyone wishing to give public comment this evening? Seeing none, we have communications.
New business resolutions, R18-05. Sorry.
Communication.
I don't have that.
You don't have that?
Oh,
yeah, just read
from
that.
Kerry Schema. R18052, Nashua Soup Kitchen, FY18 CDBG requests.
So the communication is from Kerry Skena, UPD Manager, regarding Resolution 18052, National Soup Kitchen and Shelter, FY18 CDBG request. There being no objection, I will accept the communication and place it on file. Next communication?
Okay.
Yep.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
From Brian Rose, Chief of Department, Nashua Fire Rescue, AFG Vehicle Award, Resolution R18-062, referred to Committee 7/10/2018.
Okay, there being no objection, I will accept the communication and place it on file. Unfinished business?
None.
New business resolutions.
R18-052, relative to amending the fiscal year 2018 Housing and Urban Development Annual Action Plan by amending Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter's use of funds.
Do we have a motion? Alderman Karen.
I'll make that motion for R-18-052.
Motion to recommend final passage?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to invite Kerry Skena and Michael Ranka from the National Soup Kitchen and Shelter to join us. Good evening. Any way you would like to sit, please sit. We're very informal here. We try to be anyway. Hi there.
Good evening.
So Kerry, do you want to give the committee the scoop on this reprogramming?
Sure, very briefly, and then I'll hand it over to
Sure.
Michael, who has more of the background story.
Okay.
Last fiscal year, through the annual CDBG process, the Soup Kitchen was awarded $50,000 toward the possible rehab or reconstruction of the shelter on Ash Street. Following that award, Michael was brand new at the time, and after he did some more investigating, discovered that that might not be the best use of funds, and in the interim time, a need for the chillers, I believe.
The reach-in chillers.
Right.
As opposed to the walk-in chillers, yes.
It became apparent that those needed to be replaced, so Michael approached us about changing the use of funds. We went through it to make sure that the proposed use was still eligible, which it is, and put it back toward the committee for discussion. So if Michael wants to explain the background, that'd be more appropriate.
Thank you. So thank you for being willing to consider our request.
Sure.
I was fortunate enough to be asked to serve as the executive director for the Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter back in November of 2016. And one of the things that people asked right as I started said, Ash Street Shelter, 58 Ash Street, really needs some rehab. And when the opportunity to apply for CDBG funds for construction came up, I said, that's a great opportunity. We could apply for $50,000 for rehab. That was approximately about a month and a half into my tenure. And after submitting the application, and really taking a look at it, we really realized that Ash Street needed not a rehab, but a redo. The building itself is, well, I mean, we purchased it, I believe, in 1984, so it's been serving for 34 years as a shelter. In that time, given the fact that it's been providing shelter to 14 single men and 3 families at any given time, we estimate that it's probably had 100 years of use, if not more. And just rehabbing it, fixing this and that, really wasn't going to do, it wasn't going to rise the level of quality that I think Nashua asked for of its citizens. And we felt that it would be better to pursue a different alternative. And we're actually exploring an alternative that we may come back to the city of Nashua, just certainly at the very least to explain what we're doing and hopefully perhaps ask for support at a later date. But in the interim, that project, where we go in terms of providing shelter, is probably a year to 2 out, maybe 3. And so in the interim, we said there are some things we could do just to make the shelter at Ash Street and the shelter at Quincy work for the near term. But then there's a big pressing issue, which is we, as I'm sure you're aware, had a major capital campaign to purchase and rehab 2 Quincy Street as our kitchen and pantry facilities. When we did that, the architects that designed everything spec'd out a refrigerating system, which we'll call a reach-in cooler, as opposed to a walk-in. A walk-in cooler is you walk in, reach-in cooler, you just reach your hand in. They spec'd out a reach-in cooler that would be probably similar to what, maybe not what you and I might have as a refrigerator in our home, but just sort of the next step up. But really what we have at 2 Quincy Street today is much more analogous to a grocery store. I mean, we don't charge anything for the food that's there, but people are, if you imagine going to Shaw's or Hannaford's or Whole Foods or Market Basket, you go to the cheese aisle, people are reaching in to get cheese and they're reaching out, and they're doing that all through the day. And likewise at our facility, they're doing it all through the day. But the chillers, the reach-in coolers, weren't spec'd to have that happen. And so we've been having multiple breakdowns. First, we said, okay, well, we could just beef up what's there, but the problem is that it's a small space, and then when we had the existing condenser units go really hard, that made that small room, maybe about the size of this room, incredibly hot, basically destroying all the other produce in there. So then we put the units up on the roof, and well, Nashua and New Hampshire gets some snow and ice, and over the past year, we've had multiple callbacks to say, okay, it's not working, no, it's down again. And so talking to them, they said, really what you need is you need a commercial reach-in cooler, and if you do that, that's going to address the issues. And that actually costs a significant amount. It costs about, I believe the estimate was around $32,000. So given that we have a long-term plan to address the issues with Ash Street, but that's not going to come to fruition in the near future. It's probably, again, 2 to 3 years. And we have this immediate issue with the chilling system to provide Nashuans access to fresh produce that right now is wilting because we don't have any way to chill it. We asked Carrie if she thought that the committee might entertain a motion to reallocate a good portion of that funding to address that immediate issue, and then use the rest of the funding to address some of the near-term issues with Ash Street and Kinsley. Is our hope that when we do that, we're also going to be able to, by doing some reconfiguring, provide the city 5 additional beds of shelter for single women, which is right now a critical need. And so by doing some of the adjustments, near-term fixes, we're hoping to be able to provide additional shelter for single women who don't have a place to go right now.
At your Ash Street
At
facility?
Ash Street, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Motion before us is to recommend final passage. Does the committee have any questions? Alderman Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I appreciate everything you do. This was a, we have a lot of fun
Oh, no, I
trying to deal
understand.
with this.
Yep.
But if you're looking at doing a total rehab of Ash Street, what is the purpose for the small fix that would cost around $15,000? You know, I don't have a problem with you getting the chillers. I have no problem saying $35,000 here, take care of that because that's a real need. But utilizing the rest for something that you may tear down in another year, we could probably put it aside and use it for something later.
That's a really great question. So whatever we do is not going to happen immediately. We're going to have to apply for funds, and then we're going to have to either construct or rehab an existing facility, and that timeline is going to take 2 to 3 years. And so some of the things that we'd like to do really need to be addressed right now, like a fix to the roof and things like that. The other parts of it really are that, and a significant portion of that $15,000 is that there's a critical need for shelter for single women. I was actually, I think it was maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon last week, and I had a call from a woman who was released from the hospital. She didn't have a place to stay. She was on a park bench. And I said, okay, since nobody else has a place to stay, you can stay on our sofa. Now, that's not the same as staying in a bed, but it's better than staying on a park bench for the evening. So the bulk of the rest of the request is that we believe that by investing that $15,000, a portion of which is for security cameras, we can then increase the number of beds we're offering to single women from 5 currently to 10. So, and I know that Maple Street, which is run by Harbor's Homes, does offer shelter to single women, but my understanding is that it's not dedicated. So if they basically have several rooms, and they'll have 3 beds to a room, and if there's a guy in a room, they won't put a woman in the room, for obvious reasons. So it's not dedicated. We offer dedicated space to single women who are experiencing homelessness. And if we believe that if we can put the security cameras in, that over the next 3 years, we'll be able to double the amount of shelter for single women in Nashua.
Alderman Karen.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, you're looking to use that $15,000 to make it safer for women to be able to be in that shelter by purchasing security.
cameras.
Because when you mentioned roof, I don't think $15,000 is going to
not-
take
no.
care of your roof. But if you're looking, and I agree, we probably need more beds for women. I just want to make sure that it's going for a purpose that isn't going to change that dynamics 2 years down the road, and then we're looking at that money being lost and them starting from scratch. So I just want to make sure.
Absolutely, and especially with security cameras, the nice thing about them is that if you leave the building, if we decide, okay, we're not going to be at 58 Ash Street anymore, the security cameras can go with us.
Right.
So we don't lose the investment in that way.
Right.
Whereas if we were just fixing a roof, if you leave the building,
Right.
you lose that investment.
Right, because funding is, tight, so we want to make sure that you spend the money for the right things that's helping your agency and the community at large. So I don't have a problem with that. Thank you for your explanation.
Thank you for coming back to the committee.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
after being at the shelter when we did the tour, when you applied for
Right.
the funding in the first place,
We really need another solution.
yeah,
Um,
agreed.
And
Agreed.
I'm not prepared to talk about it today.
That's
But
okay.
I think that within, hopefully in the next several months, we might be able to say we have an alternative that may serve Nashua very well.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, any other questions? Motion before us is to recommend final passage of Resolution 18052. Alderman Karen.
Yeah, so in this amendment, can we specify that $35,000 is going for the chiller and that 15 is going for the security at Ash Street?
I think,
I couldn't, Did I miss it? That's what I was trying to figure out.
It's in the resolution.
Was it,
Broken down in the resolution.
is it, is
think
it
it's
broken
broken
down?
down in
Oh,
the
I don't have the resolution. Okay,
Looking at Carrie's notes, I think it's 34,200.
that's all I have,
Yep.
yeah.
You know, the resolution
Okay.
says Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter, 15,000 for installation of security cameras.
Okay.
And then 35,000 for the installation of, so the resolution does break it down. Alderman
Okay, because
Karen.
I don't have that piece. Thank
Okay,
you.
You're
Yep.
welcome. Motion before us is to recommend final passage of R 18052. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed, and that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, resolution 18056.
Resolution 18056, relative to the acceptance and appropriation of $32,000 from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation into Public Health and Community Services Grant Activity for year 2019, Substance Misuse Prevention.
Okay, there's no one here to speak on this. However, we all know what, I know that the
Yes.
director is not at work this week, so maybe there was no one else to come forward for this. But, I mean, we all know this is money that is very much needed here in the community. Trying to see if it talks about any grant. Funding's in effect from July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019. We need the money. We need the money for this purpose. There's no denying that, so. A motion, Alderman Karen.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for final passage of R-18-056.
Motion before us is to recommend final passage of Resolution 18056. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Resolution 18062.
Resolution 18062, relative to the acceptance and appropriation up to $650,000 from the Department of Homeland Security into fire grant activity for year 2017, assistance to firefighters grant, and authorizing the transfer of up to $65,000 of matching funds from the fiscal year 2018 budget.
You've heard the motion. Do I have, you've heard, do we have a motion? Alderman Karen.
Yes, I'll make a motion for final passage of R-18-062.
Thank you. And Chief Rhodes, would you care to join us and lead a discussion on why we should do this? Sure. Okay, thanks for being here. How are you tonight?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, I'm Brian Rhodes, Chief of Department, National Fire Rescue. So this is a concept we've been thinking about for quite a few years. One of the struggles we have is getting equipment on the road that is not staffed 24/7. So this plan is to take 3 vehicles off the road and replace it with 1 vehicle, which should give us much greater access to this vehicle, but to also increase our capabilities, 1. 2, what this will do for us is, as I stated in my letter, we will trade in 2 of the vehicles, because I guess $650,000 is a lot of money. I probably could have used another 100 to get the vehicle we really needed to do one, so we could use this money from the trade-ins to help us gain a little bit more capability with that, with the vehicle. But the 3rd vehicle, in FY18, we deferred, at the request of the powers to be, to defer some vehicles. We deferred our fire alarm bucket truck, which is responsible for the construction and maintenance of our 100 milliamp municipal fire alarm system, which coincidentally protects about $1.6 billion of assessed city real estate. This vehicle is crucial to us. But looking at this plan the way we did, we're going to repurpose vehicle number 3 from my memo. We'll use the cabin chassis, which has relatively low hours and mileage on it, and save the city approximately $100,000 if we had to purchase a new cabin chassis and a body and a boom. So we're trying to do our part at the fire department and reduce the city's liability on surf equipment. And this is a fantastic opportunity for us. Deputy Chief Kerrigan has really done an outstanding job writing grants for us.
Nice.
So we're asking for that not to exceed number of $65,000 for the match.
Okay, so this has not been budgeted, or has it been budgeted?
It is not.
It
no.
is not budgeted. Okay. Questions from the committee? No questions. Must have done a pretty good job. Nobody's asking questions. You thank Deputy Kerrigan for us, too. Deputy Kerrigan. Anything? Nothing? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Motion before us is to recommend final passage of R 18-062. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to see you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution. We have another one, right? Resolution 18-063.
Resolution 18-063, relative to the acceptance and appropriation of $50,000 from the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services into Public Health and Community Services grant activity, Healthy Homes and Lead Poisoning Case Management.
A motion, Alderman Karen.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-18-063.
Motion before us is to recommend final passage of Resolution 18-063. And this is for Healthy Homes and Lead Poisoning Case Management. They do a really good job over at the Health Department managing that grant that we get, and this is just going to help them. Discussion on that?
No?
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, and last but not least, Resolution 18-064.
Resolution 18-064, relative to the acceptance and appropriation of $261,767 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Safety into Police Grant Activity for year 2019, Opioid Abuse Reduction Initiative, OARI grant.
Okay, we have a motion. Alderman Karen.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-18-064.
Motion before us is to recommend final passage. Bill Adamson, would you care to join us? Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to see you.
I haven't been here in a while.
I know, we've missed you. Of course, we haven't been here for a while
No,
either.
we haven't.
Okay, that's
Well,
what
thank you.
summer's all about, right?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for being here
Yeah,
tonight.
no problem.
This is good money.
Yeah, this is our third year of the Opioid Abuse Reduction Initiative grant. When you see in the newspaper these sweeps that we're doing weekly, getting 8, 10, 12 arrests, it's a result of the investigations from this grant money. The grant money can only be used for investigative purposes, and it's become very popular. It's gained a lot of traction throughout the state. So this year was a little bit different. We put in for more money, but there's so many agencies, smaller communities that are putting in for it. They asked us, hey, would you take level funding from last year? So we agreed, and a big thing that they're pushing is collaboration with other communities around you. So we're actually going to be, so we'll be the fiscal agent, but Hudson is going to team up with us. They have 2 detectives that will come over.
Good.
So we'll be able to make this money work. It'll build a good network with those guys. Their detectives over there don't have a lot of narcotics experience, so they'll be working with our narcotics unit, gaining some education in that and their investigations. And, you know, it's kind of one of these. People in Nashua are getting arrested for drug offenses in Hudson. People from Hudson are getting arrested for drug offenses in Nashua. So it's just, I think we all seem to think it's going to work really well,
Nice.
collaborating with them. And it's, you know, it's extra bodies to do surveillance. But it has been, the past 2 years, it's been very successful with the amount of arrests. Last year, as part of this grant, we seized, in one investigation that we were involved in, over $1 million, narcotics, also seized a vehicle. So it's good. There's no match or anything like that. It's state funded through passage of legislation that's signed by the governor. And that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good work. And I, you know, you can see all the arrests and everything that's going on, that it's being spent well, and we're
Yep.
getting some results, so thank you
Yeah,
for
I mean,
that.
and it, you know, the arrests are happening, but, you know, we're getting so many arrests, but we're able to put people into drug court. So it's been successful as far as rehabilitation as well, so.
That's good. That's good. Questions? Alderman Karen?
Well, it's not a question. I think it's great that you're collaborating with another town, you know,
Yeah.
so that you're working together. Because let's face it, you know, if they get a chance to go to the small community, they'll do that, even though they're probably hanging around
Right, exactly. I
in the
mean,
big
we're,
town. So I think that's a good way to spend that money.
yeah, I mean, in the past, when last year when we had this, it got to the point where people weren't coming to Nashua with fentanyl or heroin. They were going elsewhere to purchase it, whether it was, you know, neighboring community, Massachusetts. So this, you know, kind of, you know, gives us some more teeth in different
Nice.
areas of this.
Good.
That's good. Really good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Questions?
No question, but I do have a comment.
Sure.
I think it's great. I've gone through the drug court. I've been there a couple times, and, you know, to the graduations and what have you. And I think that's one of the best investments, one of the better investments that we've made as a city with the police department, really. Because as bad as the drugs are out here, a lot of people really don't want to be on them. And the fact that, you know, they may have the opportunity to, for a year or two, be watched by a case manager or someone in the police department or a nurse is just great. I think it's really great. And I think a lot of people are going through that program and ending up being successful in giving up the drugs.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the important piece.
Some of the success stories, the
Yeah.
names that I see, I mean, I've been here 17 years, and, you know, never in my wildest dreams, you hope for the best for people, but you would see them relapse and stuff. So some of the names that have graduated, I'm very impressed with you know, with those people, because it's hard. I mean, unless you move out of state, like you tell them, you know, people have these, well, I can't get away from these people, and then families try to move them out of state. Unfortunately, it's going to find them wherever they go. If they go to the West Coast, if they go to Florida, so having that intense, that multi tool approach of drug court is huge. It's really good, and incentivizing it for them as well, for, you know, for just small steps that they're making along the way. It's really uplifting for them and their self-esteem.
Yeah, I have to say, when they came in here, and Tina was here. We all know Tina, because Tina came and spoke to us. I've known Tina since she was a child. And I'll tell you, I never, ever, ever would have expected her to come forward. And she was very impressive.
Yep.
Very impressive. I mean, I'm sure the whole department knows Tina.
Yep.
Yep, but I was so impressed, I couldn't believe it, that she went through that program, and she seemed to really be doing well. I was very pleased for her and her family. Okay, that's it, huh? That's all we have. Motion before us is to recommend final passage. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Great.
Keep
No
up the
problem.
good work out there.
Have a good night.
Thank
Take
you, you
care.
too, Bill.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Okay, new business ordinances.
None?
General discussion. Public comment. Remarks by Alderman. No need for a non-public. Is there a motion? Alderman Karen.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion before us is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned at 7:30. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.